What index were you?
School. That's not. I was outstanding. If you came to my school, you'd find me standing outside. That was me. That was me.
On today's episode, we are joined by Edward Ondachi, who wears quite a number of hats. He will tell us about that and his seasons of life and what he has learned through the seasons of life. Edward Ondachi, karibu sana.
Thank you, Murugi.
To the show.
Yeah.
Now that I am older, please tell us who you are.
Thank you. Thank you for this welcome, Murugi. I'm so excited to be here. As you said, my name is Edward Ondachi. I'm 54. I turned 54 this January. And there are many hats I wear, but let me just mention three. There are three principal things that I discovered about myself. I started painting and drawing when I was 10. It's my mother who discovered that I could draw. And that was very, very exciting. Getting affirmation from home is everything. So I talk about my mom everywhere. When I was about 8, my mother realized I was in class 4, and she saw me drawing. And honestly, it wasn't much when I think about it, but she was so impressed by what I was doing, and it spiked the artist in me.
What were you doing at that time?
We were coloring pictures, coloring in the line. And I just really enjoyed doing it. And when she picked up the paper and went and showed my dad, I felt someone sees me. And I grew up in a family of 7 kids. So,
and you're the what?
And I was the 5th born. So I was uko chini, where nobody should notice me. But she noticed me, and that was very exciting for me. That began a journey for me. By the time I was in Form 4, in 1986, I was best painting student in Kenya.
Wow.
And that set a career for art for me. At about age 19, I became a Christian. And I became a Christian intensely. I went to church, and this church stuff got me very excited about God. It was a discovery about who God is. I was a very rowdy teenager. I was a terrible teen, quite wild. So discovering God changed the direction of my life completely. And that journey led me to be a pastor for 22 years. But I carried my art with me, because I discovered a platform that can encourage artistic skill and prowess even within church. I discovered there are so many artists in church who are lost, who feel like the only way to serve God is through preaching.
Edward the artist. How did your parents motivate you into that discipline, and how did that come about? You said the first, at 10 years, your mom discovered your art.
My artistic.
How did your parents encourage you into that?
They actually didn't. It sounds contradictory. My mother noticed it. That was enough.
What did she do after that?
I became a menace, because she pointed out something that I could do, and then I loved doing it because I was doing it for her admiration. But I went nearly overboard, because now the energy was so big. So I used to draw on her tablecloths, I used to draw on walls, I used to draw everywhere.
Were the drawings good, or they were just...
People say they were, but they were not that good when I think about it.
Now that you reflect about it.
Yeah, and because I'm asked a lot about what do I do if I have a talented child. And for me, I keep saying, all plants at a certain point, they look the same. And they're most vulnerable when they are just seedlings. That's when they can be plucked out. That's where parents play a break or make role in their children's lives. The idea is you just need to notice it, and the rest grows by itself. At Form 2, my teachers were saying, you should take a lot of time to be drawing. Draw a lot, because then you'll become more proficient. Then I told my teacher, I'm not encouraged to draw at home, because I'll be beaten if I take so much of my time doing this. And he said, you're my best student. I was in Form 2. So during our parents' teachers' conference is when they put my parents straight. It's
And
the
at that time,
teachers who now told my parents, leave this boy alone. He's the best student in my class, and he's positioned to be the best student in his stream. That's when they started buying me stuff. It was after the teachers told them.
And you in what form at that point?
Form 2. I was 15. 16 there. That's when it took the teachers telling them that we really admire what he does. At home, I was just that kid who is different from everybody else, very introverted. I have brothers who were index 1 from class 1, who became engineers and who are older. So I was no one to notice.
What index were you?
School. That's not. I was outstanding. If you came to my school, you'd find me standing outside. That was me. That was me. So I was a joker in school, at least up to Form 4. They coupled all that with the fact that he's not serious. But it took my art teacher in Form 2 to tell my parents, please leave this boy alone. This gift he has, in fact, he told my mom, this is the gift that will buy you a car. And my mother was like, we've never seen anything like it.
Parents calling out their children's potential. How do we see them? How do we call them out?
It's easy to call out a gift that you can recognize, that is like yours.
So we need to actually to be alert to
But
it
the harder
first.
one is the one that you have no idea what it is. Most parents think that singing is a menace. They think that acting is a menace. You see a little girl modeling a dress from the bedroom and you think this is for loose girls. So it is easier to discourage and to kill a gift than to encourage it.
The school discovered how good you are at Form 2 and encouraged your parents to let you be. How far did it take you after that now?
Arts are not easy to tame. But when I became best student in art in Form 4 in 1986, now Form 5.
That was in your school?
Yeah. No, what do you mean in school?
Best national?
National, best in Kenya.
Okay.
Best in Kenya. Like, that's when they noticed and they were like, whoa, what does this mean?
There's something here.
So now Form 5 and Form 6, they were even more intentional. Now it looks like there's a career out of this. So we had our first national exhibition with my friends in Form 5. So Form 5 now we went to a school that now brings A students together. Now that's when art looked like a career prospect. And now I was doing painting, I was drawing, I discovered I could draw any drawing, draw any person, my hand could do anything it wanted. I started selling paintings, I started doing portraits for them. And then I started participating in paying bills in the house.
At 17?
Yeah, I moved from the bottom of the food chain at home, fifth born, to the top. I was now with my parents in who's paying for water, who's paying for electricity.
Now they were happy about it.
Yeah, we did our first group exhibition at City Hall when we were 17. And when our paintings were taken to City Hall, they were put in the professional section. I met some guys in Form 5 who were the guys. You know, I came from a school where I was the best student.
Which school, by the way, was that?
Isili High School.
So you're born and bred in Nairobi?
Yeah. Isili High School had artists like you wouldn't believe. I think I've done close to 1,000 paintings, many drawings, many commissions. People still commission me to paint and draw for them to this day. So when I didn't have a lot of time, then I discovered you can actually sell prints of the original work you've done. So from one painting, I think I've done nearly 3,000 copies from one, since I was 18 till now. Yeah, I could drop everything and make art a career for me. It's something like I feel I was born with.
And the transition now from art, at what point did you go into ministry?
That was very upsetting for my parents because because they felt that I'm spoiled, that you are the only one who was born with a career in your hand of all this. Because on reflection, they realized we never taught him anything. He was born with, it's a God-given gift. So they felt I was abandoning it. But me, I discovered God when I was 19. But my parents sincerely thought I was getting into a cult.
So, Edward, at 17, you were really good in art.
Really the best.
Really good at art. Then at 19, you're discovering God.
Yeah.
So what was that? So what? How did that come about? What? Because you're talking about it with such conviction that you got into ministry.
Yeah.
What brought that about?
So when this Form 5 class with these artists, and every Monday, me, I'm coming from the club on the weekend. And these guys on Monday, struggling with a honey, and these guys are talking about church. We're in the same class, and they are good artists. And they're talking about sermons they were listening to. And they are good kids, because I knew the things my parents didn't know I was doing. But I'm thinking my parents would really love these boys. You know, like, wow, look at them, they are disciplined, they go to church, they don't drink, they don't go out, they are not disobedient, they
were the model children.
Yeah, and surprisingly, we used to do these sleepovers in each other's houses. When these guys came to my house, my mother loved them. Especially now they are talking about church, the Bible. My mother is like, oh my goodness, whose children are you? So my parents loved them. So I started to see, like, I don't think I bring this joy to my folks. In fact, at a certain point, my dad said, Edward is a pagan. We were Catholic, but I hated all that stuff. As a fifth born, we didn't get too much attention from our parents. They had expended their parents on my older brothers. So we were really in many ways brought up by my older bros who had their own life, which we really admired, they had. But I first wanted to be like my friends because I thought these guys don't get into any trouble. My friends and I overturned in a pickup at 2 a.m. The guy was driving the car, hit a ditch and stolen his father's car. I could have died that night. I remember distinctly I could have died. I was 16. My parents didn't know that incident happened.
You didn't tell them?
No.
Your siblings or literature, your story?
They didn't know. My closest bro knew, but we had a pact of secrecy. So nobody really discovered it. But I was reflecting by myself on what is this? But when I saw these guys, we have the same grades. We have the same drives. We have the same ambitions. And they go to church. Why? So we used to argue a lot. Now this is very funny because, so they dragged me to church. They dared me, like you are just a coward.
Yeah.
I said, why would I be a coward? I don't need to discover God. They said, you are a coward because you can't face the fact that you need God. That stung me. So I responded to that dare by saying, I'll come and I'll prove that you guys are living a lie. You know, like you're disillusioned.
So the dare was just for you to show up at church?
It was to see whether I could take the heat of being in church.
What was it about church that?
They claimed it was a better life. They claimed that it was something I'd not discovered. So in the group, this is the only place I couldn't lead them. I couldn't have an opinion. So they dared me to read the Bible. And I said, reading the Bible is for sissies, man. Who does that? That's such a joke. You guys are a bunch of losers.
At that time, you're 19.
Yeah. But I was leading them in everything else except this area.
Let me ask you, had you been in church before? Had your parents introduced you to church before? You say you were Catholic?
You were Catholic, and Catholic church was, in my view, it was boring. So I thought, I don't want this. So, but life was exciting. Remember, I was making money.
Yes.
And you're making money, you have a lot of flexibility. No one at home could tell me a lot because, you see, I'm in the management. At home, you're in management. Yeah. I'm paying bills.
You're paying bills with your parents.
I'm buying my own clothes. So no one could tell me a lot. But I dared to go to church. And somehow over there, my friends faded in the background. I was hearing something that was so fresh. I thought this was like where I'd come from. But there was life and excitement and many young people. You see, for me,
Paint a picture of how that
looked like.
That looked like the first service you.
I found now an extension of these guys where they come from. Kids who are with it, kids who are, they don't do the things I do, but they're somehow happier. They don't seem to have a need to prove anything to anyone, but they have found God, these young people. I was in a lot of shock, to be honest, but they were also Bible reading. And I thought, where did they find that? The curiosity grew, but also I found guys who were just genuinely interested in me.
Were you looking for affirmation from your parents?
My life had a lot of secrets. Yeah, my life had a lot of secrets. And when you carry secrets, you are consistently guilty.
So secrets like what? The accident? What secret?
The accident, who you are dating, why you're dating that early. Are you a virgin at 18 still? I'm not who my parents think I am. And if you ask my parents, I promise you my parents would tell you this is the best boy alive. My brothers would do worse things, but you see, we used to admire. At least my brothers were doing it in the open, and my parents were fighting with them. My parents had no idea that I smoked weed. They had no idea that I broke my virginity at 17. They had no idea, because you see, we used to live next to the Kenya Polytechnic, which had a hang every Friday, and my room was next to the door going outside. They didn't even know that I'd be out of the house sometimes at 10 and be back at 3 in the morning. So they think this is a model kid.
Sorry to ask, were they not alert?
I was just clever.
How were you getting away with that?
I had really, really seriously cheeky friends. So we somehow hid these things from them.
When did you first become a pastor?
I was 31. Yeah, I was 31. I went to Bible school when I was 26. Graduated at 30. Then just now saying, you see, I had different career choices. I could have gone on being an artist. I could have picked a teaching job. Artist was the lowest hanging fruit, because there was all this background of success and the people who were working with. But I chose, I would like to give God my full time. And my dad told me, is that going to make you money? He was just being a parent. Like, what's that going to do? So we had the picture that if you're a pastor, you're going to be poor. If you're a pastor, you're going to be asking for support all your life. You'll never get married to a beautiful girl. You will marry those girls from shags. You will always walk. You'll ride a bicycle. Those fears were there. And I could see from my dad's angle that he was concerned. And I didn't have an answer. I just told him, what I know is that God knows what he's doing. And everywhere I go, it's so amazing to know that it's God who brought you here. That has been really amazing.
What have been the highs, the lows in ministry?
The lows are, you discover people are just people. Yeah, people are just people. They are not, like you pointed out earlier, even though I had this glazed view of the people who are in church. As you grow older, you discover people are not perfect. And church catches you blindsided in that. You can expect that people in church are perfect, that pastors are perfect, that the church structure itself is perfect. That is not necessarily true. We are saved by grace, everyone. and everybody makes mistakes.
What do you find most challenging, being a pastor or a leader, when you define those roles?
I think leadership.
Why is it hard?
Leadership requires that you lead with a limp often. That even though you are going through beef, you have to keep the smile. You have to do what needs to be done. And that could mean that this is my wife's brother who's working with us, but is not performing. So I have to fire him. That's a leadership call. And you are required to, if there's a pay cut, you are required to take the first pay cut. You are required to lead by example.
Okay.
And my second degree is in leadership. So that has been the most challenging part, that you have to consistently sacrifice the more. You see problems first. You bear the greatest cost. If there is success, you have to give credit to others, not yourself. If there is failure, you have to take the first responsibility.
Now you've been in ministry, and now you've gotten into
publishing.
How long ago did you leave, or rather, have you been absent from ministry?
So I told my boss last year that I really feel I'd like to do something different. And that time things were really good. There's a new campus we had opened in Lavington. We were leading it. It was good. We were giving you a consistent, good salary.
Sorry, which church is this?
This is Mavuno, Lavington. And I came and I told my boss, I would really like to do my third passion while I'm still young. Because I just thought I would like to activate, I'd really like to retire this thing and start something new. The same way I retired art, became a pastor, but art somehow followed me. And I thought I want to explore, after I'd written my second book, so I thought I'd like to write more and I'd like to explore something different. Honestly, at that time I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that I need to move. If you keep wanting God to tell you the future, He will not. But if you're gonna do something that gives you fulfillment, you're going to have to jump. Just jump. The issue is not jumping, it is in whose arms are you going to jump into. My first book is when I was turning 50, it's my 50th anniversary. I called it 50 in Time, Chance and Potential. So I just put all my stories in there. So the second book was also short stories, and I launched it that November. But then I said, if you have an experience, if you have a story you'd like to tell, I actually have a team that can help you to do your story, because I was now retiring my team. On that day, we got 77 sign-ups.
Wow. From church?
Yeah, of guys who just said, come write my story. That's the day God told me, now that you have told everyone you don't know where you're going, now I can reveal to you where you're going. This is what you're going to do.
Publishing.
Yeah. So we just published our first book for our first client on June 17th. We registered the company in March. June we did our first story. We have 4 more to publish this year. How
has that journey in publishing been?
It's fantastic. It has a lot of travel, which is amazing for me in this space.
And out of the country?
Mostly in, because most of the people who want their stories written are elderly. So we've been to people's shads, we've been to people's homes, we've been hearing the most amazing reflections from people in their 80s. We have a client who's 97. And it's so fulfilling.
What are some of the stories you hear from these guys?
One lady has been in touch with all our presidents.
How old is she?
84. I don't have permission to say her name, but it is exhilarating going through the journey of how fresh people's minds can be, how much we take our parents for granted. I'm saddened by the fact that we summarize our parents' life in a eulogy. That's 2 pages. And mostly we are talking about sickness and death. We forget their youth, we forget their contribution, we forget their work. There's a dad, he's turning 71 now, he told me, after our conversation of 2 hours, he told me, my children don't know what you mean. And when I start talking, they switch off because they've always had this. So,
but are they telling those specifics that you are getting?
We are digging into. You see why it's easier to write your story when someone asks you? Is because you can't naturally write those yourself. You will leave out the painful parts. When someone asks you, they draw out the whole story. That's why this model is so attractive to people. Like, just present the whole team of everyone. So what we do with our clients is like this. You talk, and you'll have your book in 4 months. You just talk. Talk to us for 3 straight days. That's 300 pages of a book.
What are people really letting out? What are you discovering from this publishing journey? What are the stories like?
There are a lot of life lessons. There are experiences. There is pain. There is a desire to disclose things. There is sometimes guilt. There is justice. My attraction to this show was the theme of now that I'm older. That is what comes out. Because people want justice. Some parents feel like I didn't do a very good job with my kids. But when they talk about it in hindsight, they realize it wasn't their fault. They say, you know, my children chose that life. I say, yeah. There's a parent who's 64 saying, all my kids are divorced. And so we're like, how is that your fault? He was carrying that guilt all the time. He did his best. I raised these kids like this. Their mother died. I think that's where I failed. I'm like, how is it you failing if their mother died? He's been carrying all that. Saying that gives him peace. Yeah. And it gives him a sense of justice. It allows him to see that, okay, that's how life is. When you feel like your life can be a blessing to people, to strangers, it gives you permission to exit. And that has got its own emotion that is very difficult to explain. Most people are sitting on a lot of baggage, and they want permission to exit, especially the elderly. They want to be released. They don't want to die with guilt. They don't want to die with regret.
Is a lot of that coming out in the books?
Yeah.
Regrets?
They are very powerful stories, yeah. Very, very powerful stories. However,
what's the range of these guys?
we have people who are 24 and they've written. One of the people on our team is 24 years old, and she's on her second book. There's a market for every story. So one of the people on our team has written a book about, it's called The Graduate. She's 24, and the book is just to help people from university to get into the job market. There's a lot of material there. There's one, again, she's also 24. She's written a book called But What If I Can't? She's grown up being told she can't. And one day she just said, but what if it's possible? Because she's a very daring person. And the book is selling. So it's, there's a lady who nearly bled to death getting her first child. She was 29. So she's contemplating whether she should write, but it's her experience. So people are carrying a lot of wealth in them. And it's good when it is out. And there's a market for every experience. We love reading people's experiences. There are people who want to give business tidbits. They just feel like, I think I've done well in business. There's a lady who wants to write a story on hair. She says, I know everything about hair. And I want to give Africans their self-esteem by telling them they have beautiful hair. There's a story there. So my wonderful job is to listen and to just talk. Just talk. Editors will pick that story and they will dress the book for you. And designers will design the book for you. The book will be a blessing to you. But it tastes different from how you said it and how you read it when it's written. You need to adjust your taste buds to the fact that it may not even sound like you. That's the power of a team like that.
What's in it for you in this publishing journey? What are you really aiming to achieve in this phase of your life?
I think it's a very powerful thing to activate your gift. It is a fulfillment in itself. Yeah. Activating what you feel nature gave you or God gave you is more fulfilling than you can imagine. It wakes you up on a Monday morning, joyful that you're doing it. When we were young pastors and were being ordained into the ministry, we were told two things. Yours will be the privilege to invite young babies into this world and to help the aged to find rest as they depart from this life. It was very foreboding to hear that your privilege is to birth people and to bury people. And that is my reality. What I've discovered, if you want to find your purpose, it's very simple. First analyze what do you like, and then take a risk on it. Take a risk on what you like to do, what really gives you joy. God never really intended life to be stressful. So the angle I come from is that I think I posed to discover, the giver of that box is more fulfilling to find than the box itself. The box can do, but God is not going to push you to find him. If out of your curiosity you want to open the inner door and to say, I just want to thank you that you thought about me this way and you fashioned this thing just for me. Now, that room is where I come from, I think, by my experience of finding God. Now, if you start with God first, you'll still get the box. If you pick the box and go, you may miss God. It's not less, if you don't know God, you'll never know what you missed. But there is just a greater joy and fulfillment discovering the giver of the gift. But a lot of people are very skilled, they are very talented, they are fulfilled by just discovering what is this one thing they can do. Some, it's this multiple things they can do. It is where our interests direct us. But that's why I keep saying to myself and to others, never let three things motivate you. Never let fear motivate you, never let guilt motivate you, and never let money motivate you. Those just kick them out. And I say this to my kids all the time because they are teens. I'm like, let your gift motivate you. Let what you sense inside your heart you want to do. What do you like to do? And it doesn't have to be what I like to do. And then let's harness that. Once you find that there's a question in society that is hanging on the answer you have to give. So for me, I have felt that my gift of art has been a blessing to many people because I dare to do it and enjoy it, because then your gifts are powered by passion, by your own passion. You need to be your greatest cheerleader. And your job is to educate people on what your gift is about. It is when they learn what it's about that they start to support it. I feel that my gift of being a pastor has also blessed a lot of people because you endure through a lot of misunderstanding. It's like living in a fishbowl where your life is open for everyone to see. And now publishing. So I'm the kind of person who was given three things and God wants to see a multiplication of those 3 to 6. People are very lucky if they can just do one thing. Just one. Just be a Leo Messi. You just play football. That is the thing which you need to do. But there are people who have 5 and others 10. And so you find that your gifts dictate how you manage your time. Yeah. And you are promoted on your gifts on management of those same gifts. So they attract money. You need to learn to manage the money well. You need to learn to be gracious and generous. And you need to put proper management skills around your gifts to know how you're going to do that. I needed to prove my dad wrong that pastoral work will make you poor. So when I bought my first car as a pastor, is the first time my dad rested. My dad said, "Hapa kumbe iko pesa." He rested. I was 34. That's when my dad relaxed and he said, "Okay, so you're not those pastors I was thinking." Yeah, that's when he relaxed.
And in these 3 things that you managed to do by the time you're 54, what has helped you stay the course when you think about it?
Self-awareness. It's very important to be aware of yourself. And that means you know your weaknesses and you know your strengths. And a friend of mine liked to say, don't criticize me for my weaknesses because you cannot handle my strengths. You don't have my strengths. You can critique, but you don't have my strengths. You need to know what you're offering and be unapologetic about it. But be gracious with yourself because you're not perfect. But passion is good. I like passion. I like watching passion. Because something about passionate people remind you what life is all about. And we're inspired by it. We're inspired by Wangari Maathai. You know, you watch the disgrace she went through. It pays off. It pays off. In the end, it pays off. Life has got a lining of justice about it. It won't let you down when you give it everything. But most people are very afraid to go at full speed.
And speaking of failures, what would you say have been your failures in life, if you may talk about them?
My failures have been leadership failures, like what I talked about earlier, things which I didn't know at that time. Those have been very good. There are certain things I was not as daring. There are things which a pastoral career stopped me from doing because I'm a pastor. Like opening a club for young people, offering an alternative for young. You see, when people go out, people don't necessarily go out to drink. They go out to let out steam. I wasn't daring enough to dare for churches to open a club because I clubbed. And it's not always that you wanted to go and drink and be immoral.
Yeah.
That was a misunderstanding. There are people I have judged very harshly on their weaknesses, posing as though I'm perfect. That's been a failure of relationship. Just because you're doing well does not mean that other people therefore have failed. People come from diverse backgrounds and they have the reasons why they are doing what they do, because everyone has a story. Just by being a pastor, I've been looked at a certain way, just without even needing to say anything else. And I feel like I didn't glean everything from people that I should have. At one point, I really was pushing for the agenda to say, we have so many young people in church. Where do they go on Fridays? So you are 30, you're 29, and you're at home on a Friday night reading a book. So you will get married, then you start hanging, or you go into some serious midlife crisis because of that. Those things, I wasn't as daring as I could have been.
So what would that club look like?
It would have a lot of music, it would have a lot of laughter, it would have a lot of jokes and just fun. But I'd probably not put alcohol in it. Yeah, but just put good music, people like to listen.
And
But
it would also take the angle of what's there currently, overnight?
yeah.
So it could be like a kesha?
Yeah, well, there are no prayers, but just go dance. Yeah, there are so many things we have demonized that Jesus didn't. Yeah, that's sad. Sometimes I think that if Jesus walked into many of our churches, we wouldn't recognize him, and he wouldn't recognize us. We'd wonder, these things you're doing in my name are sanctioned by who?
Yes.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, looking at the phases of your life, what would you say has really enabled you to maneuver the different seasons of your life, from being an artist to being a pastor to being in publishing, and maneuvering the seasons of life? How would you say one should go about it, especially when thrown curveballs in life?
I think my transitions have helped because I have never seen myself as a perfect person. I make mistakes, I try. If it doesn't work, I leave it. But I think my one strength is I've always valued counsel, always valued advice, always valued it, always valued just hearing what someone has to say. What do you really think of this? After the age of 40, you won't make many new friends. So keep the few very tightly close. I've had one mentor for 34 years. His name is Nick. He's now 64. Nick tells me the truth.
How do you know if somebody is telling you the truth? How do you weed out the good, the bad?
It will pinch you. It will pinch you. You won't like it. Yeah. So someone to tell you, I think power is going into your head. I've gone to Nick and recorded my case out and said, look how this boy is treating me. And he tells me, you can't see all the pride from your heart all over this thing.
There's that person who will tell you the truth. But then, kuna ule, this one I don't think is really saying the truth. How do you establish the one who's saying the truth and the one who's not?
I think it's up to you to pick. We like to surround ourselves with people who will polish our ego. All of us like that. We like the easy flowing space. And when you have a little money, you can even pay people to tell you those things. But there'll be that person. Often it's your mother. There'll be that person who will not fear.
They'll give it to you as it
You
is.
do not rattle them in any way. Those are people to keep close. They'll tell you what nobody else can do. Ideally, it should be a spouse. Who will just tell you, you're just so full of yourself. You're full of it, man. They value those people. I have really enjoyed that a lot. And it's less hurtful when you can ask with an open heart. Like, I really need to know. Right now, I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm looking for people who've published. I'm looking for who's been here, because this is not an extension of the pastorate. This is a new deal. This is a new space. So I'm asking, I'm learning. I am checking what mistakes am I making, because I'd like to be here for 25 years, 30 years. So how can I put in something that will help to reach there? That's been something I've been proud of that, because you can be going in this direction at very high speed until someone tells you you're just being greedy. It's better to ask before you are told, but to have a person who you can trust their opinion. After 40, I'll be very surprised if there are 3 people. It's easy to be surrounded by people who will tell you what you want to hear. But to get the person who doesn't care what you think, that's a gift from God.
I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the lessons. I appreciate listening to the transition that you've had from the time you were 10 when you started into your art journey till now that you've gotten yourself into publishing, and quite some insights there that I definitely have taken away. And thank you so much for coming to the show. And maybe sometime we can hear more from you. And
No
maybe all the best if you're going to get back into ministry, into the pulpit. We hope to hear more from you.
No
And all the best in this in this journey of publishing.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciated.
I sure have enjoyed my conversation with Edward Ondachi today. I've taken a few lessons from him: transitions of life, seasons of life, embracing your gifts and making the most out of it. At 54, life sure is starting. He has a lot that is going on for him, and I hope we can take one or two lessons from this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and please let me know in the comment section what you've taken away from this episode. Until next time, have a good one.